I saw this like Wednesday morning and I thought of you immediately. Serena Williams was on the Today Show.
Oh boy.
She has nothing, Jillian, nothing to promote. Nothing except for the GLP-1 company that she's now a paid shill for called Roe. And this bugs me so much because this is deception. This is a pharmaceutical ad dressed up as a celebrity interview. We're going to take a little bit of a look and then dying for your reaction. Here we go.
Okay.
Oh my God. Yeah. So here's the thing. Last time you were here, you partnered with Roe. You've been on GLP-1s for a minute. And I read this morning, I think this is so interesting, and you tell me if this is right. Some of your numbers, like cholesterol or what have you, are better now.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Is that true? Than they were when you were an athlete?
Competing. When I was competing, and not just competing and like just playing, but actually winning Grand Slams.
Wow.
So my cholesterol level is
Never forget.
30% lower than it was years ago, which is insane, which I didn't even know. So if you have a high cholesterol level, you have a chance for heart disease.
Yes. Sure.
And that is a huge killer in the States, in the United States. So for me, I was like, was I in line to have heart disease? And like I did. So what I love about GLP-1s is the longevity of health. And that's when I started this. I was like, okay, I want to drop weight, obviously, but it was so much more to me than just dropping weight. And so getting on GLP-1s with Roe and just having experience with Roe and just being able to find all these stats that are just surprising me and blowing my mind. And also knowing that, okay, so I'm actually going to be able to be around for my kids longer. Like who knows what all this stuff could lead to.
Jillian, I think people like you and I know what all this stuff could lead to.
Oh, geez. Okay. This is such a bummer. I actually love Serena. She's one of my favorite athletes. So to have to comment on this really just, it's like,
I'm sorry.
Having said that, listen, this is America. You do what you want with your body. But cholesterol, first of all, is a very complicated conversation. And the reality is that while we know there is a correlation to cholesterol and heart disease, that doesn't necessarily mean if you have high cholesterol, you will have arterial plaque. There's a lot of different elements there. And this is where a cardiologist should advise people. It has to do with how much low density lipids, the particle size of the low density lipids, how many small particle low density lipids, are you genetically predisposed to depositing these low density lipids in your arteries? There's something called a calcium score, which is far more accurate than just a lipid panel on your blood work. But it's a separate conversation. When it comes to these medications, if there is a halo effect when it comes to health, it's because of the weight loss. So that's going to be, for example, if I took 30 pounds off of Serena without these drugs, same benefits and probably more. So again, like if this is working for her and she's happy, great. Who am I to tell her what to do with her body? But the truth of the matter is these drugs, I've said it before and I will say it again, they have a really serious side effect profile. And you just need to know that going in. If it's absolutely something that you're incapable of doing without the medication, then it becomes a cost-benefit analysis that you play out with your doctor.
Yes. And that is my issue with that interview is that Serena is talking there as though she's very fluent in the medical, biological, biochemical effects of these drugs. And she's saying, and I'm gonna live a much longer life because I'm on this GLP-1. I wanted to read to you and to all of the troublemakers, Jillian.
Killing me, dude. Killing me.
I'm sorry.
If you hit me with Oprah, I would have gone to town. But Serena, I'm like,
Okay, well, we're going to move off Serena to a dietitian who wrote to us from Texas. Okay, she says, I am licensed and registered. I've been practicing for almost 20 years. I practice in the clinical setting. And I have seen firsthand the devastating side effects of these medications. We have seen such cases such as colonic perforation, acute pancreatitis, blockage in the small intestine that requires ostomy creation, severe gastroparesis, and even death because the patient sadly and slowly starved to death. This last example actually happened 2 weeks ago. Believes just as you do. Morbidly obese, different conversation. 10 to 30 pounds, diet and exercise.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen that a bunch of articles just came out in the media. There are thousands of lawsuits against these medications. People are having ocular strokes. I've never even heard of such a thing.
What is an ocular stroke?
Essentially, they're spontaneously going blind. Now, that I have heard of as a side effect. I don't understand the mechanism because it's actually not on the box with regard to side effects. So I don't know what the mechanism would be, but it is happening. There's a vision issue. This is far more extreme than what's represented in the side effects. One woman said her colon popped. I don't even know what that means. I honest to God couldn't even begin to tell you. But what I can explain to you is that one of the ways in which this medication works is to delay gastric emptying, which means food will sit in your gut for a long time. If you take these medications consistently, which you have to do because they know that if you get off of it, when I say they know, I'm referring to meta-analyses. Every study ever done. If you get off of this stuff, you gain it all back on. It is a marriage. It is not a fling. It's a commitment. Well, if you're constantly over days, months, years, having food sit in the gut and exiting at an extremely delayed pace, imagine what that's going to do. That's the gastroparesis, stomach paralysis. That's what they're talking about. The food is no longer moving through the gut. And then you get intestinal blockage, right? So stuff's getting stuck in there. Why? Because it's not moving through the gut. You get gastric bezoars, which we've talked about before, which are these balls that look like your cat puked it up in the gut. I mean, it's pretty serious. So I would simply say morbid obesity is pretty serious, right?
Yes.
There's no judgment here. If you have a food addiction, if there's a psychological component, if there's no way forward and your health is already greatly compromised, this is a conversation with your doctor. But people that are taking these things to get ready for a summer vacation, it's like, dude, you are dancing with the devil. For what? To go from a 6 to a 2? And again, there are things that are observational. So I think, again, I hate, if I'm being redundant, please stop me.
No.
If you speak to a plastic surgeon, I know I've mentioned this to you before, they'll tell you that inside, when they open up someone's face, the musculature is destroyed and the body isn't healing the same way. And there's some, very little, but some research to suggest that the medications actually dampen the stem cells in the subdermal layer of your skin. So basically, the accelerated aging is not just, you lost body fat. But by the way, I've taken hundreds of pounds off of people over the course of decades, right? You've seen me take hundreds of pounds off of people. They always look younger. They never look older.
Yes.
I think there's definitely something to this that's deeply alarming. And I will say this for the last time. And I swear to God, it feels like, when my kids are in college, I've often wondered, do you give them fentanyl strips or is it just sort of like never, ever touch drugs? Can you trust your kids to actually go to that party and never experiment with drugs? Or do you give them the fentanyl strip? So here's my GLP-1 fentanyl strip. You go to it if you insist. And by the way, everybody should do this, whether you're morbidly obese, 40 pounds overweight. You should go to your doctor if you really want to do this. They should run all the necessary labs, check your heart, because if you're going to get on something like retatrutide, this is a new drug coming out, but people have access to it through compounding pharmacies. There are separate side effects that can involve the heart. Have the labs. It's more powerful than the other two, the previous two. It's a triple agonist. It's called retatrutide, and it has glucagon in it. So you have GLP-1, you have GIP, and now you have glucagon. So this one's actually more powerful than the other two, and it has a separate mechanism that doesn't just slow your eating, that doesn't just force you into calorie restriction. It actually does have an element or this glucagon that helps you burn more fat. So it's even more effective, but of course it comes with another set of side effects. So the bottom line is, if you're going to do this, you go to your doctor, you have them run your labs, give you a physical, monitor you, and you compound the medication so you take a fraction of the dose, and this is my fentanyl strip. This is my, like, if you're absolutely hell-bent, a much lower dose is going to be much safer with regard to side effect risk. It just is. Being able to titrate that dose, I would love it if we never had to do these things. Personally, that would be my dream. But if you're absolutely insisting on it, that's the fentanyl strip of GLP-1s, dude.
Yeah, to the lawsuits that you just mentioned, Jillian, I have many questions because this is, okay, the ball is moving a little bit closer to our side of the field, but how many lawsuits? Which GLP-1 is causing the most trouble? How many fatalities can be ascribed to these drugs, or new kinds of cancers that are like the turbo cancers that we're hearing about?
Yeah. Okay. So right now, the lawsuits are against the two that are out and FDA approved, which is semaglutide. That's, it as Ozempic. And then there's tirzepatide, which I believe as Wegovy or Mounjaro. So semaglutide is just GLP-1. Tirzepatide is GLP-1 and GIP. Retatrutide, which again, not FDA approved yet, would be or is at a compounding pharmacy, GLP-1, GIP, and glucagon.
Okay.
So the lawsuits are against the two that are currently FDA approved, against Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk. What they're trying to allege or trying to make the case for is that it wasn't on the box. So it's like, well, it didn't tell me I was going to have this ocular stroke or my colon was going to pop. Now, the drug companies are like, we take this super seriously, and we're deeply alarmed, but it is on the box. So their argument is it's on the box, side effects are there, you knew the risk and you took it. And to a certain extent, that is largely true. So I don't really know where it goes. It does say on the it's a black box warning for things like thyroid cancer, which, a lot of people will tell you, it's very rare, never seen a case. But in fact, there has been safety signals for thyroid cancer that came out of France. And when you look at that data with an expert, it actually is pretty scary. There have been cases, and it does increase your risk to a relatively alarming degree. It's rare. It's called medullary thyroid cancer, but it does exist, and it is a concern. And drug companies don't just randomly put black box warnings on their drugs, just
right.
It's like the last thing they really want to do. So final thought on this, and then I'll shut up, is, for years they've been telling us, oh, please, these drugs have been around for decades, and they're totally safe. Well, where do you think the side effects on the box came from? The decades that the drugs have been around, right, causing problems. I mean, it's
right,
dude.
And this is. I wanted to go. I went back and looked at this interview when Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who I am no fan of, was running for president. He sat with Callie Means, who, with his sister, she wrote Good Energy with him, incredible book, and they were talking about these GLP-1s. And to your point, I think people can very easily convince themselves that the black box warnings are like an extreme warning, because the likes of Oprah are out here telling us, take it, just take it. It's going great for her. So
can I rip on her? When you start asking me this, that one I feel comfortable ripping on. So you let me know when I'm good on that.
Go for it.
Okay. First of all, this woman has a very complicated financial entanglement with these medications.
Thank you.
So she was one of the top shareholders at Weight Watchers, right?
Right.
Weight Watchers was struggling because of these medications. So they bought a company that does telehealth medicine to sell these drugs. That company's called Sequence. She made, in this deal, through her Weight Watchers stock, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not a question. Then when people like me were like, wait a second, dude, you just did this. Hold on. You're like the body positivity queen.
Right.
And now you've got this fake show. I don't even know what show that is, by the way. I have no idea. Where you've got medical experts who work for the drug companies, and they're blowing your mind. Oh my gosh. You had no idea that all of this was genetic, and you had absolutely no control as you're like raking in hundreds of millions of dollars. So then she says, I'm divesting from Weight Watchers. I'm going to divest from Weight Watchers. But it's like, you already made hundreds of millions of dollars, and divested where? Like your personal 501c3? Like, where did you put the stock? Who knows? That's a separate conversation. So now she writes this book with a weight loss doctor who also works for Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. So,
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, no, the doctor works for the drug companies. Yeah, it's all a game. It's all bullshit. So
this makes me so furious.
Yeah.
So furious. And then she goes over to her platonic best friend Gail's show, and they all sit there and act like they're not getting their pockets lined and shilling a bunch of propaganda.
They are. And then the part that's really frustrating to me is she then goes and spews this pseudoscience on shows like The View, and it's like, well, because I was obese, I was eating, and I genetically was predisposed. First of all, there are hundreds of different genes that play a role in your body weight. Genetics is absolutely, there is no question. It is, it's a predeterminate, right? It will load the gun, unquestionably. Like, if I could give you an analogy, like, we have studies that say cars that drive 120 miles an hour get in more accidents become obese. And then, of course, there are absolutely causal studies that show obesity is related to increased cases of cancer, heart disease, diabetes.
Yep.
Right? Okay. So you got to have an engine that goes 120 though. Doesn't necessarily mean you drive the car at 120. You got to drive the car at 120 to get in the accident. The drive the car at 120 means you have an engine that goes 120, you have genes, you eat like shit, you sit all the time, more than likely you will become obese or overweight. Now, a lot of us have many different versions, many different genes in this genetic sort of, what is the right word, milieu? Like of the 300 plus genes or whatever, a lot of us have different ones. I have like 6 of them. And I was overweight as a kid. And I don't get to eat whatever I want. So the reality is that if genetics loads the gun, it's lifestyle that's going to pull the trigger. It's lifestyle that's going to push the car to 120. So it is within your control. It just means you have a predisposition. That's all. You can't eat mountains of ultra processed food and expect to get away with it. You won't. You're not going to. So to tell somebody, hey, this is genetic, you're just fucked. You've disempowered them, and you've disempowered them on purpose. Agency, self-empowerment, quite literally is the ability to change your circumstance. And she's telling you can't unless you take these drugs. Oh, and don't look over here at these.
For money. She's doing it for money.
Right.
Oprah is the devil.
Come on. I know.
As you just said, she's pocketed hundreds of millions from selling her shares in Weight Watchers, and we don't even know what she did with that. How much money does this woman need? And she's telling people in America who have nowhere near her resources, hey, you know what the problem is? You, like me, probably have the obesity gene, and it reverse engineered me to get grossly overweight instead of the other way around. The beauty industry has been scamming women for decades, peddling toxic, overpriced potions that promise miracles and deliver nothing. We are all sick of it, and that is why Van Man's Pearl Eye Cream should stop you in your tracks. They rejected the chemical garbage and have gone primal. Grass-fed tallow paired with wild-caught pearl powder, an ancient nutrient-dense secret that actually supports eye health, not skin health. Deeply penetrating emu and castor oils smooth skin tone and help fight vision degradation, cataracts, and even floaters. Royal jelly, organic green tea, frankincense, and rose. Real pronounceable ingredients that tighten skin and boost collagen. No fillers, no fraud. This is the eye cream that the beauty industry does not want you to discover. And they've got lots of other great all-natural products too. I use their lip balm constantly. Go give your eyes the care they actually deserve. Go to vanman.shop/Maureen and use code Maureen for 15% off your first order. That's vanman.shop/Maureen and use code Maureen for 15% off your first order. Van Man, real ingredients, no exceptions.